Hello everybody. Some of you may remember the hedge experiment, the bonsai hedge experiment that I was trying to do. It's been sat here by the pond ever since, allowing the trees to grow on. And some of them have grown on really well, and I've decided that actually I want to do something a bit different with one of the trees in this. It's not going to remain in scale and be part of the hedge, because it obviously doesn't want to be. So that is this birch tree, which is in it's got quite a substantial trunk already. I mean, it was pencil thick, or actually thinner possibly, when it went into this pot, and in a year it's grown significantly. I mean, I would say that's 2.5 centimeters, an inch in across in radius, and it's taller than I am, so it's almost 6 foot tall. So we keep panning up. As you can see, this is a tree that wants to be a big bonsai, if it wants to be a bonsai at all. So I've decided that I'm going to take it out of this pot and put it into a pot on its own and grow it as a large birch, and we'll see how that looks. Now, the rest of the trees have carried on growing fairly well, so I will come back and lay those as the rest of the hedge, and I'll find a field maple or some such to take the birch's place. And they've all grown. They're sort of 2-3 foot high, and big enough now to be cut and laid as a hedge. So we will continue with the hedge. I'm not, I've talked before about not changing horses halfway through a race, but in this case I think this tree has just said to me, I want to be a single tree, I want to be tall, I want to be big, and I want to be upright. So I have a nice pot in mind for it, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so it's quite difficult to get into here because of brambles and the large fuchsia bush digging me in the back as I speak. But this is the tree I want to rescue. This tray, I possibly could lift it on my own, but it's quite heavy, and it is indeed the very definition of wibbly wobbly. So I'm going to try and just quite literally cut this tree. I can feel roots as I'm going. Something quite substantial root wise there. I'm going to take a bit of chopping out. That's possibly from this field maple rather than the birch, but I figure if I can cut right across, so I'm effectively cutting the root ball in two at this point. It's going to be stubborn, I can tell. And there are some big roots in here. Of course, I've got to get right down to the bottom of the pot. I'm also nursing a shoulder injury at the moment, which means I can't use my left hand very easily to support, which is a bit of a nuisance, but this is what it is. We are where we are. Okay, so chop through. I'm going to turn the camera off and see if I can get this tree cut out of here. Okay, so a few last roots to go, and I should be able to Ouch, that's really not good. My arm, but never mind. There she blows. There. Okay, so there is my birch tree. My hedge has got a great big hole in it, but I can plug that gap with something else. Okay, so there's my slice of root ball with my tree, and let me just pop in a can there, trusty full-size can for scale. You can see that it's grown considerably this last year, and I even have some nice bit of taper there, and a fairly nice root ball. A bit of Nabari showing, at least from this angle, and I'm liking this quirky piece. This is the pot I'm going to put it in, so it's obviously going to need a bit of work to get into this pot, because it's too wide in this direction, and it's definitely going to be too tall, although I want it to be a tall tree, and I'm thinking maybe 4 foot in height, 3 foot, 4 foot in height. As you can see, it just keeps going up, well above the fence line now. As I said, it's taller than I am, well over 6 foot now. So now I know it's going to have to be chopped back to at least this area to fit into this pot, so I'm not going to finesse it in any way. I'm just going to chop that as well. As I say, I'm having to do everything pretty much one-handed due to this blasted shoulder injury. Apparently it's a build-up of calcium. I've got a lump of calcified something in my shoulder joint. Might have to have surgery to remove it, which, to be honest, I'd welcome at the moment. I said cut it out with an angle grinder. That's what it takes. Oh! As if on cue, it sounds like someone started up an angle grinder. No, I didn't rig that, folks, and I couldn't have rigged that if I tried, but yes, that did just happen. How bizarre is that? You couldn't write it, could you? Probably wasn't an angle grinder, but, you know, it sounds as close to one as you're going to get. Okay, so, yeah. What next, I hear you cry? I'm thinking this is possibly my front. I have some smaller roots here, a larger root going across here. I have a nice interesting sort of turn. Let's see if we can't scrape away some of this compost from the surface and reveal a little bit more. There's another interesting surface root. So yeah, I'm thinking I don't want to disturb what's left of these roots any more than I absolutely have to, so I'm not going to be combing out the entire root ball. That there is a piece, I believe, of field maple root. It's not birch. I'm going to try and use this arm. Yes. So, just feather out that edge. Remove some of these weeds. And I've got such a nice flat root ball, I'm not even going to bother wiring this into the pot. Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be my front, and I'm going to need to chop this tree down to create some taper. So although we've got some quite nice taper to this point, it's not bad. So I'm going to actually cut it off at this point here, and use this as the new leader. Simple as that. So I'm going to do that before I change my mind. I'm just going to chop the top off roughly there to begin with. As you can see, there's rather a lot of it to wobble about. And then I'm going to nibble this back until I'm happy with the angle. To incorporate this side branch as an upper branch. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit off there, nibble that back there. Okay, I think that'll be fine. So here we are, a nice and neat tapering off, and I'll need to fit a piece of wire up to that, and Bob will be your uncle. I'll have a nice bit of taper. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to put it into this pot, which I've already covered the drainage holes with mesh. I'm not going to use wire. This tree's very stable and a nice flat root base already. So I'll just try it for fit. This being my front, and I'm going to need to take a little bit off. Okay, so put some soil in the bottom, and into that, as always, I'm going to add some controlled release fertilizer as opposed to continuous release. Sprinkle that around. Once the roots get down into that layer, that'll give them 6 months worth of feed when the weather is warm enough for them to be growing it. That's how it's supposed to work. So I'm going to put a little bit more in the centre. Like so. And as I said, I think this tree, I'm going to just grow it not in any particular bonsai style. It's not going to be an informal upright or a formal upright. What I want from it to be is a typical, honest to goodness, birch tree, as you might see in nature. Tall and slender with lots of upward sweeping branches. Okay, so there we have the tree in situ. I'll give it a quick drink. There's my little dribble pipe on the end of the watering can. It stops it from sloshing terribly and washing all your loose compost away before it's had a chance to settle and for the roots to knit in and hold it all together. It is very central in this pot, and that's by design. I wanted it to be central rather than off to one side. I think because the root base comes to this edge, I don't know if you can see the water's flowing through very nicely, and the whole tree sort of sweeps to this side, and then it sweeps to the left, to the right. That gives it a good position. It is slightly to the left. Anyhow, it is pleasing to my eye, and that's what it's all about. So let's tackle this top edge, and possibly a slightly over thick piece of wire. This shoulder's not liking me lifting this high. I'm going to have to stand. Try and do this one-handed if I can. Okay, so I'm going to loop that around that branch so that it has a firm anchor point, and then onto this trunk. Now I'm going to wire it quite loosely because, as you will have guessed from seeing how big this tree grew, it just grows very vigorously, and so I don't want it to the wire to cut in before this branch has had time to really set. So, okay, so that's looking quite good. And now I'm just going to shorten off these other branches quite drastically. They don't need to be too long. This one at the back, and including these ones at the top. Let me raise the camera slightly so you can see. I'm going to shorten these off. This one's cutting across the front of the tree, so we'll get rid of that entirely. And in fact, I'm going to cut it back to there, to a solid bud. So hopefully that will give us some good taper over the coming years. And this tree can be a nice big birch, as they say, 3-4 foot into height. That's the plan for it. Okay, so it's kind of fairly straight, so I'm just going to get that to come over slightly, and that gives us a bit more variation of movement in such a way that I'm happy with that. Coming back down, there is a low branch here at the base, and I think for now I'm going to leave that as a sacrifice branch to continue fattening this aspect of the trunk. Move the camera back and give you a full view of the tree. There you have it. So essentially it's just a trunk right now. So watch out for some nice wispy branches, making it look more like a birch tree to come. Okay, so let's try and pull out a couple of these weeds. Even though I can't. I'm going to need some gloves for those brambles. Okay, so I've gone to my little nursery benches and pulled out this little hornbeam, which I've been growing in this pot for a few years, trying to create some taper by cutting it back each year, but this will make a nice little addition to this hedge, and so I'm simply going to pull it out of the pot, tease the root ball a little so it'll fit, and place it in between this field maple and this. Okay, so a nice little hornbeam there. It's now going quite happily to fill that gap in the hedge, and that'll sink in and grow up over the next year, and eventually we'll have a hedge, and it will be a thing of thingness. We shall see what it is when it is what it is. Thank you all for watching, and bearing with me while I do these strange things. I'm going to give this a bit of a trim back. This was the tree that was originally made as a hedge piece on its own, so we'll see what we can do with this piece. which was the hedge that I originally did as a bit of an experiment before I decided I wanted to go on a larger scale. I'll grab a pair of scissors and we'll have a look at that. Okay, so always difficult when you haven't got the plain background you guys to see quite so well what it is that I'm doing, but essentially at this point just pretend that I'm a tractor coming along with its flail and chopping back this hedge at the edge of a field somewhere. This will do its job of keeping the hedge compact and stop it from thinning out and producing gaps where livestock can get through. And yeah, so you can imagine that is my hedge. You'll get to see it better once I get this thing up on a bench and start working on it properly, but I'm going to need somebody to give me a hand to do that. Look out for updates on this, perhaps towards the end of the year or next spring. Thank you all for watching. Please take care of yourselves.